At the end of my second year of my job, I started researching about like all these different sorts of fellowships that exist, and this was sort of how I just sort of googled, good fellowships in India to sort of get used to the development sector and know more about it. So this was one of the names that popped up, and I sort of initially did not think too much about it, and but then I did like a deeper level of research, and I went through all the different alumni, different courses, different faculty, and I thought this is really great. So I think it sort of went from like a normal Google search to like a deeper analysis, deeper research, and which is how I came across this fellowship. Yeah. A couple of my key expectations were mostly first to learn more about the urban, because we keep using the term urban very inconspicuously, and we think that rural urban, 60% rural, 40% urban, whatever. But to know of something that's actually mm, adds another level to your insight, I think that was one thing that I really wanted to come here for, to understand what is urban, what are the key challenges that the urban faces. Second was I went through the electives, and I knew there were a couple of electives I was really, really interested in learning more about. So, electives was the, I think, highlight for me. Third was definitely the faculty and the course curriculum that had been designed. It sort of fell very structured, very specific, and the approach really pleased me. So I wanted to go through that structure and understand more about these particular aspects of the urban that I was really interested in knowing. Yeah, definitely. I mean, things like these, we just like, I keep talking to my fellows, about things, especially a lot of us who aren't from the planning background, about things that we really did not think too much about earlier, like planning, infrastructure, governance. These were things that were floating around us. We were thinking about them maybe, but we didn't delve deeper into it. And especially when we went through all these exercises, these games that we would have in class, when we realized that, oh, wait, actually, governance is quite difficult. Governance is not easy. Planning is something that's solid, and planning is not just one, two, three, four. Planning is laying out maps. Planning affects people, planning affects how things work. So, having that sort of a discussion, not just with the faculty but with the peers, I think helped enrich my understanding about the urban much greater. I'm just, at times I feel very overwhelmed that there's so much that I've learned. How do I retain it and use it in my practice later? But I think I've really, really, really enjoyed the experience so far about learning these things. And there are these moments in class where there's just pin drop silence, because everybody's just absorbing and everybody can't believe, oh my god, this is actually happening, and what do we do now? So I think these moments and these uh, like these concepts that we all of us struggle to understand, but we really enjoy that moment when you're in the class and you're learning more about these things. I think that's been a key highlight for me. The electives that I took up were governing mega infrastructure, energy and the city, urban health, and work, labor, and informality. And all four of these, I think, were very specific and very different in the sort of focus areas that they delved in. And so far, we've had two electives, and I think it's just very enriching, the sort of data you come across. The first elective that I took, which was energy and the city, and we came across these different data points that the government maintains. And the government itself knows that the measures aren't perfect, and there are lots of loopholes, but they aren't it doesn't seem like they're doing anything, right? And at the outset, it seems very ironical that why study this at all if there's nothing happening here. But there's actually a lot happening here. And when you go deeper into why this is the way it is, and why energy efficiency is measured in a certain way and not the other way, I think that just opens up your mind to the scope of work that is there to do. As a researcher, you sort of get to understand that these are the loopholes, and it's not easy to address them. Of course, they are addressable, but how do you take it from where it is right now to where it could be? I think that's sort of very, very interesting. The second one was governing mega infrastructure. Same sort of an outset. When you look at the problems from the outside, you see, oh, it's actually, it's not working out. Why are they doing this at all? But then you go into the deeper networks of how things work, and how there is politics involved in everything. There's an aspect of identity involved in everything. There is an aspect of planning obviously involved in everything. And how do you look at different aspects and different lenses, and how do you work through them? I think regardless of what sort of an elective that is, these key themes and concepts remained and helped me sort of understand different problem areas in different sectors of the urban. And I'm looking forward to doing the same with health and informality when as we move ahead. So I think I come from a background where for us, internship mostly meant corporate jobs, and I think it's a breath of fresh air, like to look at such a variety of firms that you can work for. So I have been elected as one of the internship representatives for the cohort, and we were just sitting with Kartika, who's a part of the internship committee, and sorting through all the list of organizations that we have contacts with, organizations that people are interested in, and I was just so impressed by the diversity of organizations, starting from corporate, of course, to consulting, to NGOs, to organizations that work around evictions, to organizations that work around environment, ecology. I think that was a huge step for me to understand that there's actually so much good work happening. Second was that when I gave in my preferences, I again, like the way I selected my electives, I was very selective about what sort of a firm I want to work for, and I was really happy to see that whatever sector I wanted to work for, there was an organization that was working on this, and I could apply for an internship to them. I've applied to for internships for a couple of firms, and they're all in different sectors. So one is around livelihoods, one is around financial inclusion, one is around governance, and I think it's sort of a great opportunity for us as fellows to sort of go out and use our skills that we've learned throughout the fellowship, and use them in actual real world practice. So I think that's a great opportunity. I have like a love hate relationship. I loved it because it was the first time I think I've done some proper research work. I think I love speaking to people, so I loved interviewing a lot of people. I also loved this sort of collaboration that all of the Practica groups had. When we initially when we had found these contacts, we would be like, "Oh, this is just our group contacts. We're not going to share it with anybody." But by the end of Practica, it was just like, I'm going to meet this person who is the president of this RWA. Does anybody want to come along? Come along, and whoever wanted to speak to them would come along. And even if it wasn't exactly relevant to your Practica theme, people would come along just to know more. And I think that was really helpful for me to understand about different, even not just my own theme, my own project, but also different verticals that everybody was working on. And the third reason why I also love Practica was because this there was this feeling of teamwork, because we went through such highs and lows, and at the end of it, when we look back, I think you see what sort of progress you've made, and that was really impressive for me. Why I hated Practica was that it was difficult. It was very difficult because we had these constant, every day we had these meetings where the team would meet. We would agree on, let's say, 20%, and 80% of the times we'd disagree. And I sort of am a person who doesn't like conflict that much. But so this was something that was quite difficult for me at the beginning. Of course, we did come together as a team in the end, but like there was a lot we disagreed on. which I sort of feel like is important as well. But that was something that, yeah, um, was a little difficult for me to handle in the beginning. So yeah, I think Practica was quite quite impactful, and I'm going to remember, take away a lot of learnings from that. I think the course structure is really great, especially because you have such a great faculty. The way that everybody is made to come across the same sort of foundation, so that everybody, whoever wants to develop key specializations into something else, can start from there and not start from something that they do not have any clue about. So I think Commons was great for that. Electives, again, like electives was something that attracted me to the fellowship in the beginning. Electives are something I completely adore, especially because it's not just in classroom learning and discussion. We also get to go to the field and look at different things. Practica, like I said, was difficult, but I think it really added value because I was constantly thinking about what am I learning in class and what can I translate into the project. Again, the fourth thing that I really appreciate is the project that you get to work on. For me individually, I'm working on a project which is learning about financing techniques in the BBMP, and it's just within 2 to 3 weeks I sort of feel like an expert, that why aren't municipalities doing this? This is such a great practice. And when you understand why they aren't doing some things that they should be doing, I think it sort of adds another depth to your understanding. I sort of pride myself on being very good at Excel. But Data Skill Lab has been very challenging in the sense that there are so many things that you can do with the graphs, with visualization, with sort of softwares that you use. So I think I'm really looking forward to that. And I think I'm very excited about podcasts. I've taken that as a skill lab as well, because I have had a very brief stint with radio before, but podcast is something that's new and upcoming, and I listen to very few podcasts, but it's sort of like this territory that I've never ventured into, so I'm very excited about that. And lastly, about qualitative research, which I've chosen another as the other skill lab. I think that's just going to add a lot more value to me as a researcher when I learn more about um, how to pose questions correctly and how to approach people with these questions correctly. I think it's been really refreshing because, firstly, if you talk about diversity in the sort of educational background, I come from a background where I've done a little bit of economics, a little bit of banking. So for me to see so many architects, planners, people from literature, journalism, um, engineering, and that just adds so much of perspective to how you've been thinking about something in a very singular narrative. So that was really refreshing. Second is the sort of places we come from. Like you see people from Jammu, you see people from Maharashtra, people from Bihar, people from Bangalore, Kerala. So I think that adds a lot of cultural value as well, because I get to learn so much about different cultures. I get to hear people speaking in Marathi here, people speaking in Kannada here, people speaking in Tamil here. So that's also very fun because you get to learn about different cultures. Third is the sort of economic background. I think um, it's very important for people from different economic backgrounds to interact. I feel, because you get to understand what sort of struggles, what sort of privileges everybody has had, and that adds more to your understanding of how society works, rather than just having the same sort of people all throughout your interactions. So I think diversity is something that is very important and also has been greatly maintained, at least in our cohort that I can see here. I, for one, have absolutely loved Urban Lens. I never knew movies like these would exist. I remember in a class with Subhashri, I mentioned that I want to stop watching movies with Govinda, and I want to watch movies with, let's say, I want to watch more documentaries. And then she mentioned that, movies with Govinda can also have a meaning. So I think that sort of changed the way I look at movies, and especially the sort of movies that are presented in urban lens. That it's a mix. It's not just one sort of a line of thought to which movies are retrofitted. Movies are from different um, arenas, and they all make sense to the layperson, a person like me. I have attended a couple of webinars on public text as well. And for a person like me who reads but very infrequently, I think that sort of also acts as an encouragement when I listen to these really interesting discussions about the books happening. We've attended a couple of seminars during Urban Arc, and I sort of also, while we were doing the energy elective, we attended a couple of seminars on solar decathlon. So I think we're just in awe most of the times about the number of things that IHS is doing. And to just, to incorporate everything beyond just the course and the sort of assignments, electives, etc., with the sort of learning that complements it, whether it's through movies, whether it's through webinars, whether it's through just discussions. I think that adds a lot of values. I think we've had like 4 or 5 of them so far, and I think they add such a deep level of understanding. You think you know this, but actually you don't. There are experts on this who will tell you that there's a lot more to learn about this particular topic, whether it's housing, whether it's migration. And I'm just very appreciative of the fact that IHS has this sort of box where it has somebody for everything. So I think master classes that way also did a huge role in adding to sort of like the package that is the fellowship. Yeah. Every day, whenever we have to talk about anything that's related to the fellowship, we talk about the faculty, like whether it's faculty that's teaching the course, whether it's a faculty that's a part of the labs. I think we're just really impressed by the quality of people that are there here. And it's not just the qualifications, they're all greatly qualified, they're all really smart people, but the fact that they're so open and so approachable. A lot of us come from backgrounds where we haven't had an open faculty to go out to. These were people who were obviously very of a high stature, and they felt like something that people that you can't talk to. Here, it's just that it's such an open environment where you talk about mentorship with the faculty, you talk about everything with the faculty, and it's just a very enriching environment. And I hope wherever we go out to, we find that sort of like a safe space where we can talk about everything from intellectual knowledge to personal problems. I know it's really ideal, but I think all of us really appreciates having that sort of an equation with the faculty. The fact that they're so approachable despite of being really knowledgeable and qualified. I think that's something that I've really appreciated here. This is something that requires commitment. So be ready to make that sort of a commitment, and don't I've been raving about the fellowship to all my friends that I know, that about the sort of curriculum, the faculty here, and all they've been asking me that maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I have a gap year in my CV. But my advice to people like those who think they're not good enough, I think the people here are the most understanding and some of the smartest people. So they will see through you no matter how good a CV you have. If you're not willing to commit to the sort of values and the sort of mission that the fellowship has, they won't select you. But if you have that drive, if you have that passion, and if you want to learn, then don't worry about it and just apply.